Hello, everyone, and welcome to another reading of the stories honoring Native American Heritage Month. And tonight I'll be reading Little Dove Learns to Weave from the Treasury of American Indian Tales. When Little Dove, a Winnebago baby girl, was born, she had everything a newborn baby could ask for. First of all, her father was chief of the Winnebagos, and her mother was considered one of the most beautiful women in the tribe. There were many relatives who came to view the new child and left many precious gifts for her. When she was born, Little Dove was strapped to a cradle board and carried by her mother in this fashion. Each day, her mother would unwrap her and clean her body all over and massage her little limbs. Then she was wrapped once again on the board, and life continued this way until the baby was able to walk. She was always fed when she was hungry, and she never but a few feet from her mother's side. But soon Little Dove began to walk, and so she left the cradle board and began to run and play with the other children in the outdoor of doors. Everyone was affectionate and indulgent toward the girl, as Indians always were toward their children. Soon, however, they realized that Little Dove was beginning to grow up. Little Dove was already 10 summers old when her mother called her to the side of the home to talk with her. Little Dove, she commenced, you must start to prepare for your life later on as a wife and a mother. If you are to be a good wife, you must learn the work that all Indian women must do. Most Indian girls welcomed this advice from their mothers, but Little Dove was different. Because she was the chief's daughter, some people had given her the idea that she would be waited upon for the rest of her life, if not by her mother or other women of the tribe, then eventually by her husband. When she told this to her mother tried to explain, but Dove did not want to listen and simply walked away. Soft Feather, her mother, was very much concerned and went to talk to her husband. But just as many fathers do even today, the chief said, be patient. She is young and she will learn. Soft Feather was quite disturbed, and each day she would ask Little Dove to come and begin to learn. But each day, Little Dove would run off to play with the younger children, while the older children were busy learning to work that goes with adult life. One day, Little Dove noticed an Indian boy that she had seen several times sitting by himself, shaping a bow. What are you doing? She asked. I'm shaping a bow, said I, that when I marry, I will have a fine weapon with which to bring down the running deer. For a long while, Little Dove sat with the young boy, and nothing more was said. Finally, the young brave rose and, bidding goodbye to Little Dove, started for his home. Little Dove was now 12, and each day she would see the young boy at work or play. Finally, she went to her mother. Mother, the young boy who has the pretty belt and bone-handled knife, who is he? That, my daughter, is your father's best friend's son, Straight Arrow. Why, do you like him especially? I like him a lot. Several weeks passed, and one day, as Little Dove was idling her time away, dragging her feet in a stream, young Straight Arrow came to the water's edge to wash some dirt from his arms and legs. He had been working in the garden with his father and now was going to clean up. Little Dove looked directly at him and said, are you planning on taking a wife very soon, Straight Arrow? I suppose so, Little Dove, for I was almost 16. For I am almost 16, and my father said that I should be married now. I am planning to be married soon, said Little Dove. Can you cook or sew or weave baskets? No, I cannot do these things. Will I have to? Well, I do not know about you, but any girl that I marry must be able to do that and lots more. Well, I must be going now, for it's time for lunch and I'm very hungry, and my sister is a very good cook. With that, Straight Arrow left the side of the stream and left behind a very angry little dove. Little Dove rushed home and told her mother what had happened. When she was finished blurting out the story, her mother said, "And now what do you want me to do about it, my little dove?" "Mother, you will teach me to weave baskets and sew and cook." So the lessons began that very afternoon. The cooking was easy, but when it came to weaving, that was a little more difficult, and it was a long time before Little Dove could weave a basket that looked like a basket. First, she and her mother would gather some thin ash and linden trees. These had to be straight and free of knots. They they would strip them from the bark. These they then they pounded until they came apart in long splints. Then these were dried and woven into baskets. Also, Little Dove learned how to make shredded basswood fibers. These were made almost the same way, except that they were made into a strong thread by twisting them and rolling them against the thigh of one's leg. These threads were used to weave belts and tump lines and square bags. Soon Little Dove had become quite expert at cooking and sewing and weaving, and once again she looked for Straight Arrow. She found him one day seated by a small stream that ran near the village. She sat down and began throwing pebbles into the stream. "I have learned to cook and to weave and to sew, Straight and Arrow," she said rather quickly. "That is good," he answered, "for now you will make someone a good wife." And with that, he rose and walked slowly back to the village. Little Dove sat and cried. When she could cry no longer, she sat and looked into the water until it was dark, and then she returned to the village. Her mother was waiting for her. "Your father wishes to speak to you, Little Dove." "Yes, my father, you sent for me?" "Little Dove, today a young brave came to see me. He wants you for his wife and has offered me many fine horses. I think you will make a good make you he will make you a good husband. So in 4 moons time you will be married, my daughter." Little Dove felt her heart sink. "Who is it that has asked to marry me, father?" "Straight Arrow, son of Big Arrow, my daughter. For today you told him you could weave." Father and daughter smiled at each other, and then Little Dove left to talk with her mother and tell her how wrong a foolish young Indian girl could be. All right, that is the story of Little Dove Learns to Weave from the Treasury of American Indian Tales. And thank you again for joining another evening of stories honoring Native American Heritage Month. Thanks and good night.